You're listening to a Roddenberry Podcast.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. And now for a brand new show we hope you'll like. Gene-ology, a Roddenberry Podcast.
Episode 87, Cage at McNaab. Welcome to Mission Log Gene-ology. I'm Earl Green.
No, I'm Earl Green.
No, seriously, that other Earl Green, you can clearly tell that's not Earl Green.
I'm not me?
Okay, you're Earl. I'm Ashley Thomas, and it was all a clever plan to escape from the podcast, because each week on Gene-ology, we go through a stack of Gene Roddenberry's early TV scripts to find the appeal, as well as any morals, meanings, or messages that he may have been trying to sneak past the keepers of the keys in the heyday of TV.
I'm so confused, but hey, today we open The Cage. You know, the one at McNaab, to see what Paladin is doing in there with absolutely no Telosians. Before we get to trivia on this week's episode, let me take a moment to encourage you to join our Patreon, or follow us on YouTube, or leave a review wherever you are listening to the show. Patreon is your gateway to all things Mission Log, including exclusive access to the unedited version of our show, codename The VAM, and our private Discord, where you can interact with us, your hosts, during scheduled live chats, along with occasional screenings. You can access all this for just $1 a month, so head over to patreon.com/missionlog to see what tier works for you, and you can join in the conversation.
By the way, folks, reviews help our shows more than you know. Even if you can't come up with the words for a written review, one of those 5-star ratings really does go a long way to tell the algorithm that you see the appeal of the show and that everyone should unlock their podcast catchers to give us a listen. We are counting on our loyal genealogists to help us spread the word. And now, this week's trivia. Earl, I believe you've found an arresting amount of trivia for this week's show.
Well, I am a man of many convictions, and none of them currently pending. We are closing in on the end of Paladin's wanderings, as well as the end of Gene writing for him. Cage at McNaab was the 23rd episode of the 6th and final season of Have Gun Will Travel, and it aired on February 16th, 1963. As Mr. O'Connor, we have guest star Lon Chaney Jr., credited here simply as Lon Chaney. And yes, it's that Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman. Believe it or not, this is his second episode of Have Gun Will Travel. He had already done a guest shot in Season 2. Now, despite the fact that pop culture history has cemented him as one of the original Universal monsters, and rightly so, Lon Chaney Jr. appeared just as often, if not more often, in westerns than in horror movies. He was also Lenny in the 1939 film adaptation of Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, which came in a close second to the Wolfman in the roles with which he became most identified. We lost Lon Chaney Jr. in 1973. As Nora Larson, we have Jacqueline Scott. She got her start in the early days of TV with appearances on the Kaiser Aluminum Hour, The Detectives, Kane's 100, The Twilight Zone, and multiple episodes of The Outer Limits, Marcus Welby, M.D., and Planet of the Apes. This is her 5th and final guest appearance on Have Gun Will Travel, having appeared once per season except for Season 5. She sat that one out. She has already crossed paths with Gene in a guest appearance in a 1961 episode of Target the Corruptors. We lost Jacqueline Scott in 2020. We have Christopher Dark as Brian Larson. Christopher Dark was a New York native who appeared in films like Suddenly and World Without End, and like many actors of his generation, served his time at Ziv Television with guest shots in Dr. Christian, Science Fiction Theater, Men into Space, and Sea Hunt. Other guest roles included episodes of One Step Beyond, Perry Mason, Rawhide, The Green Hornet, and Love American Style. He died unexpectedly in 1971. Ford Rainey is the Warden. Ford is one of those familiar faces who has been in everything. You might remember him from movie roles in The Sand Pebbles, or Halloween 2, or 3:10 to Yuma. You might remember him from recurring roles in Search or The Manhunter in the early 70s, or Ned and Stacy in the 90s. Like I said, he's been in a bit of everything, and in the primetime season after Have Gun went off the air, he was in nearly every episode of Richard Boone's Playhouse show, The Richard Boone Show. He lost Ford Rainey in 2005. A couple of minor casting notes here. We have John Harmon as Trowbridge. We'll see John twice in Star Trek, once as Rodent in City on the Edge of Forever, and a season later as Teppo in A Piece of the Action. And as the first prison guard, we have George Kemas. George is also racking up his second Have Gun guest shot here, although he hasn't appeared since the first season. Now, most recently, we talked about him in the role of Tucky in Gene's 1958 Sam Houston pilot. And for this penultimate Gene script on Have Gun, we once again have Gary Nelson going in through and beyond the director's chair. Gary has been first AD on a lot of the show to date, and has occasionally stepped up to the plate to be the guy behind the camera who needs his own first AD. Act 1. Paladin is going through a ream of legal paperwork in the Larson household, with Mrs. Larson hovering nearby. Her husband Brian has been cooling his heels in the local jail for over a year, convicted of a murder that he claimed was committed by three men who he couldn't identify on the stand under oath. All appeals have been denied. Every day could be Brian's last. Larson's wife wants Paladin to talk to Brian, find out who the men were, and bring them to justice before Brian winds up at the wrong end of the hangman's noose. Mrs. Larson offers Paladin $1,000 in advance, but he says he'll talk to her husband before money changes hands. And with that, Paladin rides up to the forbidding front gate of the McNaab Territorial Prison. Mrs. Larson has told him to look for a man named Trowbridge, who takes Paladin directly to the prisoner without this request going through the warden's office, which is highly unusual and has Paladin on alert, as if the baying prison guard dogs aren't enough to put him on edge. Trowbridge tells Paladin to have a seat while he brings Larson up from solitary, where all the condemned prisoners stay until the day before they hang. Paladin observes that this certainly makes it easier to not have to think about these men or their fate, but Trowbridge makes it sound like it's just a common-sense precaution. When Larson is brought into the room, he needs help to walk. Bearded, with straggly, unwashed hair, Larson has been kept in a room so dark that even the light from a single lantern is painful to his eyes. Just as Paladin begins to ask question, Trowbridge knocks him out. Prisoner and jailer move into action. This was all part of the plan. Step 1, Larson shaves so he can pass himself off as Paladin, while Trowbridge starts undoing Paladin's gun belt. Step 2, let the pantsing begin. Paladin awakens in solitary confinement in Larson's prison uniform. He calls for a guard, but no one comes. He is the prisoner. Be seeing you. When a jailer brings food to Paladin, calling him Larson, Paladin tries to tell him what happened. Larson, with the help of Trowbridge, planned an escape. Paladin is not Larson. But the jailer keeps calling him Larson and tells him that Trowbridge fessed up to the whole thing this morning when he quit his job. The jailer is caught off guard when Paladin grabs his arm and pulls him up against the bars. Another guard shows up and rifle butts Paladin back into unconsciousness. The guards then unlock the cell door and put another man, burly and disheveled, in the same cell with Paladin, locking them both in. Well, hey, at least it's not solitary anymore, is it? Act 2. Paladin is awakened by his fellow prisoner, O'Connor, who has been trying unsuccessfully to jimmy the lock to the cell door. Moments later, the guards are back, this time with the prison warden, who is there to see Larson. Paladin again tries to correct the case of mistaken identity, but no one's listening. The warden promises that if he cooperates on the way to the gallows, Larson will at least get a stiff drink beforehand. Even when Paladin tries to demonstrate who he is by reciting recent news headlines from outside, no one believes him. The warden says that Trowbridge admitted to accepting a bribe from Larson's wife to feed him this information, help him clean up, and even bring him extra food to fatten him up so he could try to pass himself off as another man. Hey, it was a cunning plan, but it didn't work. Paladin shakes his head and says, I believe I understand for the first time what McKay meant when he said that those who try to turn other human beings into senseless brutes end by being brutes themselves. But then Paladin scowls visibly at a new arrival. Mrs. Nora Larson is here, and she's calling him Brian too, apologizing for the failure of her plan to break him out. The fix is in. Paladin quietly tells her that even when he's gone, she will remember who he was and what she did. She races out of the room. Having lulled everyone else in the room into a false sense of security with this quiet conversation, Paladin lashes out in one last escape attempt. He almost makes it, but he is again beaten unconscious. Act 3. When he comes to again, Paladin gets to know more about his cellmate, O'Connor, who is also due to hang in the morning. O'Connor can tell Paladin isn't Larson. He says he killed a man who robbed him, but Paladin is just the wrong man, and a ranting, incensed O'Connor starts pulling on the window bars until he completely dislodges one. Paladin uses that bar to break the remaining window bar while asking O'Connor what awaits him out that window. Turns out it's a 12-foot drop to freedom, but O'Connor is still shackled at the ankles, and unlike the more wiry Paladin, he's simply too big to get through the window. He'd only slow Paladin down anyway. After expressing his sincere gratitude to the man he can't save, Paladin makes a break for it. The prison guards figure out in the morning that they're missing a man. Release the hounds! Paladin makes his way across rough terrain with the yapping of the prison dogs always in the distance, and then stumbles across a dead body. Trowbridge, recipient of a shotgun blast to the gut, courtesy of Larson. Paladin makes his way back to the Larson homestead, listening at the door before attempting to enter, but what he hears is a woman sobbing. At that sound, Paladin forces his way in the front door, finding Nora Larson in the floor. She's been beaten. Enter Brian Larson, wearing Paladin's clothes. Paladin demands to know what happened, and Larson starts ranting about how his wife had an attack of conscience and planned to alert the prison warden that he had the wrong man, so Paladin wouldn't hang. Nora protests, but then Brian begins ranting accusations at her. If you really loved me, you'd be happy to see 10 men buried in my place. But no. He admits that he killed Trowbridge, who was also having second thoughts, and Paladin returning to the house gives him the best possible setup. He can kill Paladin, framing Paladin for killing his wife and Trowbridge. Oh, yeah, honey, sorry, you've got to die too for this plan to work. Paladin points out that this is a terrible plan. If the dogs get into the house tracking Paladin, his scent is also on the clothes that Larson is wearing. The dogs won't care who smells more like eau de Paladin. They'll just tear them both apart. And just like that, the dogs are at the door. Larson is distracted by the dogs long enough for Paladin to grab a piece of pottery to smash over his head. The dogs continue barking at the door of the Larson's house. Paladin changes back into his own clothes and puts Larson back into his prison duds. Nora still tends to Larson, and he wakes up just as Paladin pulls her away from him. Still trying to help her husband, Nora screams, "Run!" And that's all Larson needs to leap through his own window to escape, except he doesn't. The prison guards finally catch up to the dogs, but not in time to stop them from tucking into a big Larson-flavored can of puppy chow. Nora and Paladin can only watch horrified from inside the house. Later, Paladin fixes Nora with a steely stare. She can only say, "I guess I loved him too much," in response. How can a thing that seems so good turn out to be so bad? Paladin responds that maybe love itself is neither beautiful nor ugly. Maybe the answer lies in how we use it. And he leaves her, not confined, but definitely solitary. The end.
Earl, think you had that recap on lock, bro. So much so that my computer locked up and I had to force a restart because my computer froze. Sorry about that.
It took the words "the end" literally.
I mean, literally, you said the end. I hit Alt-Tab to go back over to the Zoom window and, well, yeah, but anyway.
Maybe your computer is like the guard dogs in this episode and it speaks Spanish.
Mi computadora pare. My computer stop, was what I just said. I think I minored in Spanish and have very little to show for it. Lo siento to all of our Spanish-speaking listeners who will probably come at me and say, Ashley, you need to stop it.
So, at the Larson household, did you notice when Paladin got out of that chair, he almost knocked it over?
Yeah, he was... I didn't notice that, but he was definitely...
He had trouble getting out of that. It was like, It was the anti-Riker.
Yeah. Not the Riker maneuver. What should we call that? The Barclay maneuver? I feel like Barclay would trip over the chair.
The Paladin plunge. It was almost the Paladin plunge.
The Paladin plunge. I love it.
I just thought that was funny watching that. I was like, no budget for retakes? Okay.
And not this week. You had to, pay Lon Chaney Jr.'s salary.
Well, and, we also had to budget lots of time so Gary Nelson could pull out some cool director tricks like that scene where Paladin is first behind bars. And the camera pulls out from between the bars and then pulls out from between a second set of bars and keeps trucking back. It's like, how did you even do that? Now, I think the way that works is that the camera is always behind the second set of bars. You put the lens through the bars and zoom in. And so it's a combination of zooming out and trucking backward.
Yeah.
So it looks like the camera just keeps passing between the bars, but it keeps passing between sets of bars. And it's like, whoa, that was one hell of a shot.
That was a really cool shot. I'd never even stopped to think about the mechanics of it, but that's really fascinating.
That's a statement shot. I mean, that goes on your show reel. That shot does.
Yeah. That's when you put on a resume.
Yeah. So that's how you wind up directing Floaty Robot Buddies, is you do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who do we like more as prison warden on Have Gun Will Travel? This guy or the guy who was in a huge hurry to hang Roy Carter?
It's the same picture. To quote the great philosopher Pam Beasley, they're the same picture.
Yeah, this guy seemed like he likes his job a little too much.
Yeah, he's definitely a little too happy about that. I don't love this whole idea of folks being so dang bloodthirsty. I guess folks are bloodthirsty, but I don't like it. Can we not do that?
I kind of had a flashback to Time for Hanging here, where it was like, oh, we are still going to find and hang the guy we were looking for, but in the meantime, Karen, you'll do. You'll do, right. Yeah, you would look good hanging from that tree. Yeah, they're just eager to hang somebody. It didn't matter who it was, whether they were innocent or guilty. Somebody's getting strung up today. I don't think we got a name for the prison warden, but he's probably a relative of Mr. Cunningham. And I don't mean Tom Bosley. Yeah, no. What was the name of the actor who played him? I forget. Ford Rainey. Ford Rainey, yeah. I mean, he must have been a pretty good dude to get along with, since Richard Boone had him back so often on his Richard Boone variety show. Richard Boone's show after Have Gun was really, I'm going to get all my actor buddies together and we're going to put on a play every week. And there's just going to happen to be cameras there. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. I would be okay with that. Yeah, it does. And a lot of the same people showed up week after week, or at least showed up multiple times. Mm-hmm. You've got your local rep company. They may not be doing the same play all the time, but it's going to be the same people. But that's one way to really find out if anyone has any range. Yeah, and I really wish we could bring anthology TV like that back. I would love to see more of that, because throw these actors in and see what they can do. Okay, so Earl, we'll get to it, I'm sure, in discussion, but I got real confused about the ending. That last scene, and so. big scene omitted vibes happening here.
Yeah, I'm unclear about what exactly happened, if the guy was disoriented or if he saw no other way to get out of the situation. But yes, he's there. He's wearing Paladin's clothes. Paladin knocks him out.
And then we all change clothes really fast.
We all, Miss Larson, please look away, because I'm about to strip to my skivvies and get my fancy duds back. But
I don't need you to see where I'm packing my Derringer.
Yeah, exactly. And then he somehow manages to get the guy dressed in
this prison uniform.
In the prison duds while he's knocked out. I mean, I guess maybe she assisted with that, but
there's multiple implied pantsings in this episode.
Yes, pantsing. That was the word I was looking for. Yeah, but regardless, I don't understand his impetus unless he was like severely disoriented from being in solitary confinement, from having made an escape running through the desert, having been hit on the head with a large vase and being knocked out cold. He wakes up, somebody hollers, "Get out," or "Go," or whatever. Your impetus was to leap through the window, not open the door, but leap through the window. That was your knee-jerk reaction? I am bamboozled about all of this.
And there's, screaming dogs outside. You're going to leap out the window where the dogs are. Yeah,
you can hear the dogs. Like, you hear the dogs as he's waking up. It's not like it was new information.
Yeah, I assume they were barking the whole time they were changing him. Yeah, their keeper finally catches up with him, and he's like, "Oh, man, my dogs are howling. Oh, and my dogs are howling.
Oh, no."
The actor playing Larson, was it just me, or did you get big Jeffrey Combs energy off this guy?
Ooh, yep.
It's like the Jeffrey Combs of the 1960s.
Yeah, he can play that kind of manic energy really well. It was Christopher Dark.
Yeah. And, I figure he got the kind of roles that you also hire Combs for, which is you need the viewer to know that something ain't right with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he probably got hired for that a lot, and he's good at it, because the moment he started talking about, oh yeah, this is the plan. Mm-hmm. Except, he had crazy eyes going the whole time. It's like, ooh, I could see Jeffrey Combs doing this.
Yeah. And I'm looking at his IMDb right now, and he had a lot of guest spots on TV, from 1950 until he passed in 1971.
Yeah, which he had a heart attack, so he was not planning on stopping working.
Yeah. I mean, this is a man that kept really busy. He was in 4 episodes of Bonanza, one of those playing Doc Holliday. Lots of different kinds of characters. So this is a guy who had, again, we're talking about folks that have range. It looks like this was a guy that had range.
Yeah. Maybe he wasn't landing a series regular role anywhere, but you know what else he wasn't doing? Starving.
Raise my glass to you, Mr. Christopher Dark. You were creepy AF in this episode.
Yeah, he did a very good job of creeping me out as well.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm assuming Paladin is quoting or paraphrasing the works of Charles Mackay, who is a Scotsman who wrote everything from poetry to biographies of America's founding fathers to a book called Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds, which dissected the topic of groupthink and mob mentality on different levels and in different applications, such as sociology, financial frenzies, and also persecuting opponents and minorities. Kay was also a journalist who traveled to the States to cover the American Civil War. But I think it's that book that Paladin is probably referencing, and I have a feeling that kind of book would definitely have appealed to Gene.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think this was definitely a, hey, I've read something, and y'all get to hear about it.
Some folks on IMDb looking at the trivia From the dialogue, this episode can be dated as occurring in mid-May 1872. Paladin says, last week, the Liberal Republicans nominated Greeley for president and Brown for vice president. This happened May 1st or the 3rd, 1872 in Cincinnati.
Wow. The only thing we don't have is a star date.
Yeah, I mean, truly. Less of an observation, but, if folks go track this down, this episode to watch, don't have your phone in your hand. I got confused the first time I watched it, trying to take in everything that was happening. Like, wait a minute, who's who? Wait, what are we doing here? Who's this other rando that is put in the cell with Paladin? Oh, that rando's, only Lon Chaney Jr., no big deal. Trying to get everything straight was a little bit challenging for me. So it did take me 2 watches to really take in everything, and I did have to rewind a couple of times. So bit of free advice that nobody asked for. Leave your phone in the other room when you're watching this one, because it can be a little confusing.
If nothing else, you can pay attention to Gary Nelson flexing behind the camera.
Yep. Again, great camera work on this one. Whew. Earl.
Yeah?
I'm excited to hear what you've got to discuss about this episode, because the meme of the little elephant that says, I have additional questions, that's me. I am the little elephant today.
It's not just you. I hate to tell you that, because there are ideas that we tiptoe right up to and then twinkle toe away, little cartoon twinkle toe sound, like, oh no, we're not going to talk about that. And yet I'm like, yes, but Gene Roddenberry certainly has something to say on this topic, but not this week. I felt like, oh, this is going to be something about the treatment of prisoners. I almost wish we had gotten more of that than the twisty plot that we got, because that's a very important topic.
Right.
But realistically, it's also a topic that's not likely to gain any primetime traction in 1963, because empathizing with the plight of people in prison traditionally has not been an American pastime.
No, it hasn't.
It almost felt like, okay, maybe we're going to get into the rush to judgment / punishment theme that has featured in some of Gene's best work, including on this series. But evidently that was not the story that Gene was setting out to tell. When Paladin finds that Larson has beaten his wife, I realized that this was reminding me just a little bit of the setup for the affair with Browning's woman, although this is more like the mirror universe affair with Browning's woman. Larson should have had a goatee. Sometimes I kind of think she should have too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Larson's just a psycho, whereas Browning, we figure out, okay, there was a reason he did what he did. Is it considered a crime? Yes. But could it be considered a justifiable crime? Possibly also yes, but let's just get the hell out of here first.
Right.
Did Larson start out this nutty, or is this what the tender mercies of solitary confinement in the McNaab prison system do to him? I don't know that it matters, because by the end of the story, he's absolutely not redeemable. But I have more of a question about whether Nora is redeemable, because she lures Paladin into this scheme. The plan is premeditated. She's in on it with her husband and with Trowbridge. She's in it up to her ears. She is culpable. She does not deserve for her husband to have physically abused her.
No.
Nobody deserves that. But I also find it very hard to let her off the hook with this really vague line about how we use love. It's like, okay, dude, those are 80s lyrics from the outfield. That is not a resolution to a story.
Yeah.
It sounds like Paladin believes she's been manipulated, but it seems to me like she had already pushed her chips all in a lot sooner than that. It's one of those stories where it's like, okay, is there anyone left to sympathize with other than Paladin? but also feels like there's a giant scene missing. Because dude jumped out the window. He's in a prison uniform. Is that good enough for them? They're just looking to hang someone today.
They can try to hang that guy, but he's going to be already dead.
Yeah, it's dog food.
Yeah.
Just like that guy from Whiplash.
Whiplash, yeah, Mr. Z.
Yeah, Mr. Zumwalt.
Zumwalt, yes, Mr. Zumwalt. Yeah. He chose the hangman's noose over dog food. I'm curious to see if that shows up again in anything else Gene writes, because it's the second time we've had. Would you like to hang or be eaten by dogs? Take your pick.
But does anyone step outside to explain anything to the prison authorities? They saw what Paladin looked like. Did they care that he was the armed man in black and apparently going to walk free? There's a lot of unexplained stuff there at the end.
Yeah, it felt like either stuff got edited out or Gene ran out of time and we just got to wrap this up and, well, we're going to change clothes and the guy's magically going to jump out the window.
Yeah.
In an extremely melodramatic Kool-Aid Man type fashion.
Death by pantsing, death by puppies.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, yeah! He indeed went out with a bang.
Yeah. So I really didn't think all that much of the script this week. The glue that held it all together was the performances.
Yes, I agree.
Especially Richard Boone and Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
Chaney's character admits he killed a guy, but he killed a guy for robbing him. Is there no leeway there? Can Paladin do nothing to talk to them? Of course, I cannot blame Paladin for not waltzing in there with his very distinctive face and saying, "Oh, I'd like to talk to the warden." Oh, no, they're just going to lock him up again.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. Nah. Once those dogs are gone, he's gone.
Yeah. And I assume that by the time all of this happens, O'Connor is swinging from a rope.
Yeah. And you pity him.
I do, but also the guy kind of went on a crazy-eyed rant of his own.
Mm-hmm.
Which, why not do that? If you've got Lon Chaney Jr. on the payroll, you might as well.
Yeah, let him cut loose.
But I pitied him the most when he sat down in the cell and said, "Maybe it's better that I'm in here."
Mm-hmm.
But he did not follow that up with, "Maybe it's better that I'm in here where I can't hurt anyone." Mm-hmm. He said, "Maybe it's better that I'm in here where no one can rob me." If he's facing down the end and that's what he's worried about, good grief, I feel sorry for this guy.
The way he describes, out there.
Yeah, where the air is fresh and clean.
Yeah, it's pitiable. Because he has been faced with solitary confinement, which is horrible. You understand how he got there and why he's there, and
I wish we had gotten more on him.
Yeah, I would have liked more details. And so one of the things I was confused about and kept getting confused about while watching this was like, so why did they bring him up? I guess maybe to give him like his one day of fresh air before he hangs, I guess. Or why was he being put in the cell with Paladin? Unclear still about that.
It seems like there's a lot of things wanting to be said here about imprisonment, about the justice system.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was the doing of the script editor or if it was the producers telling Gene, "No, this is exactly what we want and you will write it." But it just seems like this script spends its whole half hour shying away from discussing any of the things that it's almost discussing.
Right. There's something to be said there maybe for treatment of prisoners, for treating all human beings with dignity, regardless of where you find them. But you don't get the opportunity to really dive deep into those topics. You've also got Larson, who's manipulated this situation. I mean, he's clearly an abusive person. I feel like to a degree, Mrs. Larson has definitely been manipulated, but also she's got some unpacking to do that, I am in love with a very bad man who does bad things. And I think I can either fix him, or if I get him out of the situation, he'll be better or whatever. Because we're never really given a whole lot of detail about why he's in there. Yeah, he killed those guys, but, we're not given many more details about it. We're led to believe initially that it was a self-defense kind of sort of thing or whatever. Again, not that apparently that matters, because O'Connor is in there. And sounds like that was probably a self-defense kind of situation, unless he went to go kill these guys after the fact.
Yeah.
So the details are a little too muddy here, and I don't like that.
Unfortunately, the picture that leaves you with is that Paladin is basically the only honorable person in this story.
I guess so.
And I'm not comfortable with that. Especially not when you have someone like O'Connor, who clearly his chips are down.
Yeah.
And it seems like there was so much more waiting to be said about him in particular. How did Trowbridge get sucked into this? What's his angle?
Mm-hmm.
We don't get that. We just get this kind of chessboard plotting where we're going to push everyone around into position, do what they got to do.
Yeah.
So it falls a little bit short of Gene's best work on Have Gun. On the other hand, I may have liked this better than Taylor's Woman.
Yeah, but I'll agree with you, Earl. I think the performances are what hold this episode together, because the writing's a little iffy.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Ashley, but I feel like I've just gotten out of the prison that is this episode.
You and me both, and I feel like maybe I gotten a haircut and I don't know who I am anymore.
Hopefully you're still wearing the same pants.
As far as I can tell, yeah. Nobody snuck in here and pantsed me.
Stuff happens in this place.
Yeah.
I really have a lot of questions about how the place is run. Because even if someone like O'Connor is a much cleaner case than Larson, no one's going to give him a chance.
No, this warden and the Mr. Cunningham from A Time for Hanging, the warden in Hanging of Roy Carter, it's the same picture. These are all the same guys, and all they care about is having a neck in the noose. They don't care who it belongs to.
Yeah. Gotta meet the quota.
And him coming in and sizing Paladin up, thicker than usual neck, 7-foot drop. I'm like, it never once occurred to me that you would have to calibrate that.
Dude is, I don't know if the word is good at his job, but apparently he also likes it.
This isn't the episode of Have Gun that makes you laugh. It's not an episode of Have Gun or even another Gene script that leaves you with some warm fuzzies or food for thought. It's just it's almost like the end of Law and Order at Jefferson Drum, where you just want to go sit down at the bar and, Big Ed, have a beer, please. Thank you.
Yeah, unless you count the multiple pantsings. Nothing funny happens in this episode.
Your pants gonna travel.
Yeah, now that would have been a much-needed moment of levity. Have Paladin go, oh, crap, the business cards. Mm-hmm. How am I going to hear the song?
Yeah.
If there are any messages about the dangers of a justice system that's geared too much towards speedy punishment and not enough toward any kind of leniency, those messages came out of our discussion more than they came out of this episode.
Yeah, I wish, if we had even zoomed in a little bit more on why did Larson end up in prison to start with. I guess maybe that kind of undoes some of the element of surprise when, they bring Larson out and then Paladin gets jumped.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's why we can't do that. But the idea that these guards, wouldn't even, be able to tell the difference that they got the wrong man, or do they even care? I think that's the point that O'Connor is making.
Yeah, they don't care.
It's like, he's like, they don't even know they got the wrong man. It's like, well, I think they know. I just don't think they care. And it is interesting to me that if what first guard, played by George Kimas, he comes in and we heard it all from Trowbridge, who confessed to everything before he quit this morning. Why isn't Trowbridge in jail? Like, are they all in on this?
Yeah. Is anyone going to round up Nora? Because, like I said, she's in it up to her eyeballs.
Yeah. I don't get what they're trying to do here. There's way too many threads that weren't tied up as neatly as they could have been or should have been for this to really make more sense.
Yeah.
But
the only thing that holds it together is the cast. What Gene did give them, which is not among his very best, they managed to elevate it and make it so you couldn't look away. It doesn't seem like they were working with anything that had the guts to say anything about that situation. You and I can sit here and say lots of things about that situation.
Sure.
None of that was in the script.
I think one other thing that is still lingering for me, when Mrs. Larson says, maybe I loved him too much, I'm thinking a lot about folks who are some of like the nicest people on earth, but they are enablers and they allow people in their lives, whether that be a spouse or a child or a family member, to take advantage of their kindness. And I mean, it's akin to giving a drunk a drink,
Yeah.
Somebody is dealing with alcoholism. You don't serve them a beer. Don't invite them over for dinner and said, here, have a glass of wine, have a drink. You don't do that. It's not kind. And it's almost like Larson is so narcissistic and self-obsessed, and folks who are narcissists prey upon empathetic people. And I think Nora here is an empathetic person. And that's the other thing, too. Being an empathetic person who has been taken advantage of by narcissists, where they have convinced you of a particular persona to the point where, and because you care about that person, you don't see how other people perceive them and how they really are. And so I have some empathy for Nora because I've been in that spot, not to that degree, but she is as culpable here, even if it was with the best of intention, as Brian Larson is.
Yeah.
She has played a role in aiding and abetting him to escape prison, kill the guard, almost kill Paladin, because they're in a situation where the folks running the prison just don't care. They just want, somebody to drop from the gallows. And it doesn't matter who it is.
Sometimes the most horrifying examples of the sunk cost fallacy are in relationship form. The real thorny question here is, okay, she has been maneuvered into doing this stuff, but she has done it.
She has
Eyes
done it.
open.
She certainly...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much empathy do we have left for her at the end?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I see how she got there.
Yeah. Yeah, we see how she got there.
But...
Yes, think about good intentions. Road to hell's paved with them.
Yeah. Like I said, I see how she got there. I can empathize with her position, but not with her actions. Yeah. If nothing else, folks, that is a cautionary tale.
And maybe that's the message.
Gene-ology is meant to be entertaining and informative, but it's also just the beginning of an ongoing conversation about the works of Gene Roddenberry. please drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com and join us on Facebook at MissionLogPod. And please remember, your comments could be used on future installments of Gene-ology. If you have any material that might be of interest to us that isn't already in the Roddenberry archive, drop us a line at missionlog@roddenberry.com. Our website is missionlogpodcast.com, and MissionLog Gene-ology is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment.
On the next Gene-ology, the Savages.
Special thanks to consulting producers Matt Esposito, Tom Kozak, Mike Richards, Mike Schabel, and Paul Shadwell.
We'll be back next week with more of your favorite programs. This concludes our broadcast day.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.